Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something, something a lot of us are probably feeling, that kind of heaviness. The one that comes with being, more aware in this super digital world we live in.
Yeah, that weight. It's real.
It really is. And as Dedrick put it recently, that weight you're feeling, that's what emotional awakening feels like when it first cracks open inside you. It's not just you, it's a shared thing.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to dig into today. Why does this happen? What's the significance? And crucially, how can we handle it without getting completely well swamped?
Right. It's not about being perfect or reaching some ultimate state of calm, is it?
Not at all. It's more about just staying human, staying grounded through it all.
And striving for that. Daedric calls it emotional sovereignty, right? That control over our own feelings. Well, he points out that trying to achieve that can actually make you feel really drained.
It's a paradox almost.
Yeah. He says emotional sovereignty comes with emotional fatigue. And if you're feeling that tiredness right now, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And wow, that hit home for me.
It's such an important thing to acknowledge up front. We're putting in work, mental work, emotional work, trying to stay present in this world that's always, on.
So that tiredness, it makes sense.
It's completely understandable, a natural result of that effort.
I definitely went through a phase where the notifications, the endless scrolling late at night, it felt like my phone was basically wired into my nervous system, just constant low-level stress.
Oh, absolutely.
And on top of that, I kind of became the go-to emotional support person for, well, a lot of people, and eventually total burnout.
That's so common.
The biggest lesson, I think, was realizing I wasn't actually designed to carry all that alone. Nobody is.
That feeling of being just overloaded speaks right to what Diedrich lays out as the three hidden causes of emotional fatigue. Should we start with the first one?
Yeah, let's do it. Emotional overexposure. Diedrich describes it really vividly. He says something like, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a digital jolt. It just knows something's happening and it reacts.
Without boundaries.
Exactly. Without boundaries, digital spaces become emotional fire hoses, soaking us with invisible stress. It's like our internal alarms are just constantly ringing.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Our brains, they're amazing, but they just haven't caught up to this sheer volume, this relentless pace of digital information.
So every little ping adds up.
Every single one, even if it seems minor, it can trigger that stress response.
Yeah.
And over time, doing that constantly, day in, day out, it leads to this chronic exhaustion.
Okay, so how do we, dial down that fire hose a bit?
Well, Diedrich has a really practical idea.
Yeah.
Creating what he calls sacred scroll-free zones.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Sacred zones.
Yeah. So designating certain places, maybe it's your car, maybe the bedroom, the dinner table, is completely tech-free spots.
Just giving your nervous system a chance to, reset?
Exactly. To recover from that constant input. It's not about ditching technology altogether, obviously, but about carving out these intentional pockets of calm. Letting your emotions actually breathe.
It sounds so simple, but probably really effective.
It's about setting boundaries where it feels like there are none. Intentionally creating these zones lets your nervous system actually downshift, find some rest, even just for a little while.
Diedrich mentioned a friend, didn't he? Someone who made their bedroom scroll-free.
Yes. And apparently it felt a bit weird at first, which makes sense.
Yeah, that habit is strong.
But over time, they noticed a real improvement in sleep and just generally felt better mood-wise. That one boundary created a little sanctuary.
That's powerful. It shows how these small changes can actually make a difference.
Totally. And he also mentioned a colleague, I think, who realized they got really irritable.
Snapping at people.
Yeah, snapping at loved ones. And it often happened after they'd been consuming a ton of news online.
That invisible emotional load.
Right. So recognizing that connection, they consciously decided to limit their digital news intake. Yeah. And apparently felt much calmer, more patient afterwards.
It really underscores how important it is to just be aware, doesn't it? To notice that link between what we're taking in digitally and how we're feeling, how we're acting.
Which kind of leads us perfectly into the second hidden cause Diedrich talks about, emotional disempowerment.
Okay, disempowerment. How does that work in the digital space?
Well, it's about how these platforms are often, designed. Diedrich points out algorithms reward outrage, urgency, and impulsivity, not reflection.
Ah, so they're built for reaction, not thought.
Precisely. When you're constantly pushed to react, not reflect, exhaustion creeps in. The very way these spaces are set up can work against our emotional well-being.
That makes sense. You get caught in that loop, see something shocking, react immediately. It's fueled by the algorithm wanting engagement.
And there's hardly any space left for like genuine reflection or processing your own actual feelings.
So what do we do about that? Is there a way to counter it?
Diederik suggests what he calls a sovereignty practice. It's pretty straightforward, actually.
Okay.
When you feel triggered online, that heat rising,
Mm-hmm.
just pause, just for a second, and ask yourself, is this really my emotion? Or is the platform kind of nudging me to feel this way?
Oh, interesting. Like separating your feeling from the platform's design.
Exactly. That tiny pause, that question, it creates a little bit of space for conscious choice rather than just automatic reaction.
That feels really empowering, actually, stepping back from that knee-jerk thing and checking in, is this me or is this the algorithm talking?
Mm-hmm. And Diederik shared an example of someone who used to get really caught up in online arguments, reacting instantly, feeling angry and drained all the time.
I think we can all relate to that on some level.
Totally. But by starting to practice that pause, asking himself those questions, he found he could navigate those situations with more emotional distance, more calm.
So moving from just reacting to actually responding thoughtfully.
Yeah, from being sort of pulled along by the algorithm's agenda to being the one actually writing your own emotional script, so to speak.
I like that, being the author of your experience.
Diederik also mentioned someone else, I think a woman who realized her online reactions often just mirrored whatever the big outrage wave was online at the time.
Ah, getting swept up in the collective feeling.
Right, so she started journaling her feelings before jumping into online discussions, just to reconnect with her own voice, her own emotional baseline, instead of just amplifying the online noise.
That's a great practical tip, taking that beat to connect with yourself first.
And for anyone feeling that relentless pressure to be constantly on, constantly engaged.
Which is a lot of us, especially maybe younger professionals.
Right. Diederik shared an example of someone tackling that exhaustion by setting really clear limits, deciding when they'd engage, when they wouldn't, and crucially, learning it was okay to say no sometimes.
Without feeling like they owed everyone an explanation.
Exactly. Reclaiming that power through conscious boundaries.
Okay, so we've covered overexposure and disempowerment. What's the third hidden cause?
This one is often really overlooked. Emotional double work.
Double work. What does that mean?
It's about the invisible effort, the mental and emotional energy we spend just trying to stay balanced, trying to keep our equilibrium while navigating all the complexity online.
Ah, Dedrick put this really well. He said, staying emotionally sovereign in the digital world means constantly swimming upstream.
Resisting platforms that want to monetize your feelings.
Yeah. It's invisible labor most people don't even realize they're doing, and it's heavy.
Wow. It's like we're constantly filtering and managing our reactions while being hit with stuff designed to get a reaction.
It's that extra layer of processing, isn't it? That constant low-level monitoring and self-regulation just to not get swept away. And it's exhausting because it's often subconscious. We don't clock how much energy it's actually taking.
So what's the answer here? You can't just like emotionally check out.
No, definitely not. But Didrik offers some really crucial guidance here. It's about giving yourself permission. Permission for what?
Permission to log off.
Yeah.
Step away. Without needing closure on every thread, without feeling like you have to explain yourself to the internet.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah. He says, you don't owe the internet an explanation every time you need to protect your peace.
You don't have to stay in every argument.
Answer every comment, validate every single conversation. His point is, logging off is not quitting, it's reclaiming.
Reclaiming your peace, your sovereignty.
Exactly. It's a powerful act of self-care in a world that often demands constant connection. There's this unspoken pressure, isn't there, to see everything through online, even if it's hurting you.
Totally. Giving yourself that permission to just disconnect guilt-free,
Yeah.
that feels radical almost.
It really can be.
Diedrich had some examples of this invisible labor too, right? Like the parent feeling pressure.
Yeah, the parent who felt they had to be the emotional rock for the whole family while, silently dealing with their own immense stress. It shows how hard it is to set boundaries when you feel responsible for others' feelings.
That's such a common trap, prioritizing everyone else's emotional needs over your own.
And the digital world just pours fuel on that fire, creating that sense of needing to be available 24/7.
He also mentioned a teacher burning out from messages.
Right, feeling obligated to reply to students' parents late into the evening, and realizing that simply turning off notifications during their personal time was essential. It wasn't rude, It was necessary self-preservation.
Protecting their peace to avoid complete depletion.
And one more, the friend who felt guilty at first for logging off during some kind of online drama.
Like they were abandoning the situation.
Yeah, but then realizing, no, this was actually necessary self-care. It was about reclaiming their own emotional space, their sovereignty.
These examples really make it concrete. These aren't abstract problems. They're things people deal with every day. And taking small steps helps.
Definitely. And Daedric is super clear. This isn't about suddenly becoming some kind of emotional ninja overnight.
No quick fixes.
No. It's more about building awareness. And crucially, being willing to actually rest when you feel that fatigue kick in. Don't just push through it.
He calls the effort just trying to stay human when everything seems designed to flatten us. He calls it sacred work.
It is. And he has this really validating quote, doesn't he? Something like,
Yeah, you're not the only one who's tired. I know what it feels like to be carrying it all.
the emotional labor that nobody sees.
The digital pings you can't ignore, the pressure to show up, speak up, stay connected, even when you're breaking a little inside.
That validation is just so important. It's easy to feel like you're failing somehow when you get overwhelmed.
But he reframes it, doesn't he? That tiredness isn't weakness.
Not at all. It's a sign you're awake, you're aware.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes being awake is uncomfortable, even painful, but it's also the only place healing can start. It's the first step to reclaiming that emotional space.
He also talks about what growth actually looks like in this context. It's not always like big fireworks moments.
Right. He says, growth doesn't always look like fireworks. It looks like friction.
Friction, I like that.
It looks like emotional exhaustion after you set a boundary you used to avoid.
Oh, yeah, that feels real.
It looks like pausing before you doom scroll and noticing the urge, even if you don't catch it every time.
So even just noticing is progress.
Huge progress.
Yeah.
It looks like feeling everything more clearly and realizing that clarity's heavy, but it's honest.
Wow. So if you're feeling these tough things, the friction, the exhaustion, the heaviness of clarity, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Exactly the opposite. Diedrich says, if you're feeling any of these things, you're not broken. You're building.
Building, not broken.
You're not failing.
Mm.
You're forging a new way of being. It's a process. And that sovereignty, that sense of agency, it doesn't just arrive like a prize.
How does it arrive then?
He says it arrives quietly in the small, tired moments where you choose to stay awake to your own humanity.
That's really beautiful and encouraging.
It really is.
And knowing this is heavy stuff to talk about, Diedrich offers something practical too, right? A little tool.
Yeah, a small gift, he calls it. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding sensory check-in.
Ah, I know that one. Name 5 things you see.
4 things you can touch, 3 you can hear.
2 you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste.
It's just a simple way to pull yourself back into your body, to the present moment, especially when you feel scattered or overwhelmed.
Just anchoring yourself.
As Diedrich puts it, sometimes sovereignty looks like slowing down long enough to feel yourself breathing again, and sometimes that's enough.
Sometimes that's everything.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, in our next deep dive, we're going to build on this. Diedrich teases looking at some science-backed emotional reset tools.
Ooh, practical tools, like ways to actually interrupt that doom scrolling cycle.
Exactly. And reclaim your emotional baseline, create more space for, real, honest feelings.
That sounds incredibly useful.
Yeah.
It's all about getting those strategies to navigate this digital world in a way that actually supports us instead of just draining us.
Couldn't agree more. Because, as Diedrich says, and this is key, there's a way through this, and it doesn't start with stronger algorithms.
It starts with stronger emotions. Love that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and feeling tired, rest up, digital friend.
Yeah.
Remember, you're not falling apart.
You're building something stronger. Stay emotionally sovereign, stay digitally smart, and always remember,
Stronger emotions, not stronger algorithms.